Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Business of Story. If this is your first time here, I'm your host, Park Howell, author of Brand Bewitchery and our brand new book, co-written with my good buddy, Dr. Randy Olson, called The Narrative Gym for Business. Now, the Narrative Gym for Business is a short 75-page guide that you can literally read in like 90 minutes that will help you craft powerful ABTs, the and, but, therefore, foundational narrative framework. You can create ABT statements to make all of your business communications connect from the very start. So check it out, The Narrative Gym for Business on Amazon. If you head over there and grab one, please leave us a rating and review. You'll help us get found in the Amazon jungle. 2 weeks ago, I hosted one of the nation's premier email marketers by the name of Sam George. He was right here on the Business of Story, and we discussed the horror stories we tell ourselves when we're ghosted by prospects, customers, clients, and especially friends who don't return our emails or texts. You know what I'm talking about, right? Don't you hate that feeling? But ghosting is just a symptom of a bigger problem. The real ghoul is confusion. Confusion in how we message. Confuse, you lose. Now, Sam in the show said the trick is to write emails and other digital correspondence correctly to reduce the chance of being ghosted in the very first place. During the episode, I introduced Sam to the ABT and it blew him away. You can hear it in his voice when you listen to the show. Then Sam took my ABTs as Selling Quick online course, and here's what he had to say in an email. He sent this to me. He said, "Park, your course is fantastic. A genius sees what everyone else can't, even though it's right before their eyes. The answer is typically straightforward. That is why the ABT is so effective. I'm going to use it with my online fundraising efforts, and I'll report back in." Then Sam sent me this testimonial.
World Finance and George Soros and John Sperling, the founder of the University of Phoenix, are just a couple of the genius billionaires for whom I've worked. They all had stories to tell which amplified their product. Park Howell's Power of Story and ABT are a genius idea. Stories are how we consider things. We are always telling stories to ourselves and each other. The brain compels us to think this way. Patterns is how the brain processes everything and stores it as knowledge. If there's not a pattern, then it can't be known. There must be a story. Stories have been proven to be more effective than logical arguments and other reasoning. Logical bullet points and run-on and sentences don't complete the pattern your mind needs. The ABT is the story's engine. There are 3 words: and, but, and therefore. And is when you validate the person or what they believe and associate them with the story you are to tell. The story centers on the outcome you desire. Once validated, they will stay tuned. But is how you create counterpoint to your and statement. The conflict generates curiosity and puts the story in motion. Now there must be an ending. Therefore is the end of the story. People driven by the brain's pattern process yearn for closure. Your product is the happy ending.
Thanks for that, Sam. Now you can use this better way to communicate by learning and applying it through my ABTs of Selling online course. In under 18 minutes through 3 short videos, you'll begin crafting ABTs that will hack through the noise and hook the hearts of your customers in no time. Check it out at businessofstory.thinkific.com and buy our new companion book, The Narrative Gym for Business, in either print or Kindle on Amazon. And of course, please leave us a rating and review. So you can use the ABT to focus your business and sales messages and to quickly connect with prospects and convert them to customers. But how do you make them lifelong customers? John Jantsch, author of the new book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine, shares some ways to do exactly that today.
Well, everybody listening, I suspect, has heard of the marketing funnel because it's been a well-worn concept for years. But the problem I've had with it, and I started writing about this maybe 15 years ago, is that for many, many people, it stops when somebody says yes, when somebody becomes a customer. And I think the real opportunity in most of our businesses is after that. I've said for years that the greatest source of lead generation is a happy customer.
John Jantsch is a marketing consultant, speaker, and author of several books, including Duct Tape Marketing, The Referral Engine, The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, and of course now, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. He's also the founder of Duct Tape Marketing Consultant Network, which trains and licenses independent consultants and agencies to use the duct tape methodology. Today, John shares how you can use his marketing hourglass that reimagines the typical customer funnel process. You'll learn the 7 prospect and customer behaviors of the marketing hourglass and how you can leverage the stories they're telling themselves about you to attract and keep more ideal customers. All that and more on this edition of the Business Story with marketing guru John Jantsch. John, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Park. I'm glad to be here. I think I might be a repeat.
Yeah, you are a repeat. I did not take the time to go back and look at what numbers show you were, but it was like in year 2 and I'm in year 6 now.
All right.
And it's just awesome to have you back.
Thanks. Love to be here.
So judging by the panel wall behind you, I'm guessing you're at your place in Colorado?
I am. And actually, we've owned this house for about 3 years, but about 8 weeks ago, we sold our house in Kansas City. And so now I'm a permanent resident of Colorado.
Wow. And whereabouts in Colorado?
So we're in the mountains west of Boulder, about 8,600 feet. So we're truly in the mountains.
Wow. Good for you. I've got a brother that lives south of you in Parker, Arizona, and he loves it. I mean, Parker, Colorado, just south of Denver. Yeah. And I'm up here, of course, now in northern Arizona, but at 6,600 feet. So you've got me beat by a few thousand, it sounds like. So I got to ask, how's your internet? Because that's the one thing I have found to be a freaking nightmare in rural Arizona.
When we first moved in here, we relied on satellite, and it was kind of a pain because it had a lag. And so, we've all gone to doing these video conference things now, so it wouldn't have survived. But fortunately, about maybe a year and a half ago or so, a little company ran broadband up through here, so we now have great internet.
Oh, man. Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Elon Musk is going to come through for me with Starlink, and that will solve all of my problems. We'll have to just wait and see how that goes. So you're back on the show. You got yet another book out, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. And before we jump on that, I want you to go back. I'm interested because I don't know that we covered your story the first time we talked. But when you first got into marketing and you found yourself really enjoying working with small to mid-sized companies and you were successful for them, but you couldn't figure out how to make a good living doing that because maybe there just wasn't enough money with the small to medium marketing firms or clients to help a marketing firm actually be profitable. And honestly, John, in my 35-year career, I've had that exact same problem working with some of them. How did you overcome that?
Well, so, part of my challenge was before starting my firm, I'd worked for a large agency and, that's where I learned how it was done. And they had all large clients. And, when I started my business, like a lot of people, I just took anything that came along, big project, big company, little company. And as you said, I really enjoyed working with small businesses, but I couldn't do it the way that I had been taught to do it. So really, but I wanted to work with them. So in order to solve that frustration, I said, I've got to take a different approach. I want to be able to walk in and say, look, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. Here are the results we hope to get. And here's what it costs. Do you want it or not? And I pretty quickly found in trying to solve my greatest frustration, I really tapped into what is today maybe still or increasingly one of the greatest frustrations with small, mid-sized businesses. It's really hard to buy marketing services, and it's gotten harder because not only are there more platforms, there's more people selling a piece of the puzzle. So the fact that somebody would offer to install a marketing system was the language I used, and they knew what it was going to cost was kind of music to their ears. And so I built my practice up as a solopreneur rather quickly doing that. And then that's what I wrote about in my first book, Duct Tape Marketing. And I started attracting other independent marketing consultants, people like yourself who said that same thing. I've been frustrated with that, who now license our methodology and collaborate, really working with thousands of small businesses at any given time.
Well, we all love to work with the underdog and help the underdog and that challenger brand out there. I think probably because we all feel like we have that underdog mentality ourselves. And there is just something about overthrowing the Goliath in a market, in helping those folks do that. How did you, in your first foray into helping these, how did you know that your system really worked? Because it sounds like you were showing up with, here, follow this 10-step system and we're going to make a lot of money for you. How did you know it was going to work?
Well, I didn't know it was going to work. It was, let's just face it, it was a grand experiment to some degree. However, what I did know was that whatever I offered them was going to be better than what they were doing right now. I will say, iteration one of my system was way too complex. And over the years, I've probably spent most of my time simplifying it. There were certain elements that I knew they needed. I knew they needed to start moving into the digital world. I knew they needed to start bringing content as a tool, not as a tactic. I knew they needed SEO to be simplified. And so that's really where I started, that foundation, frankly. And as I said, the bar was so low in many cases because of what was existing today.
John, when did you start Duct Tape Marketing?
February 18th, 2002 was when I actually registered the domain name ducttapemarketing.com. However, I had been actually practicing my marketing consulting for over a decade prior to that. But that's when I really got this idea of I have to create a marketing system. I have to turn marketing almost into a product. That's when I realized I needed a brand-ish name. And so that was really the genesis of the name Duct Tape Marketing. And that's when I registered the site. But I'd been working with small business owners probably about 10 years prior to that.
Okay. And so in your genesis and your evolution of duct tape marketing, now what? This is your fourth book. You've got Duct Tape Marketing, The Referral Engine, The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, and now The Ultimate Marketing Engine. Are these books kind of a reflection of your own evolution in how you've helped companies and what you've learned in that process?
Yeah, I think no question. I mean, the first book, Duct Tape Marketing, was a bit of just a distillation of what I'd been doing. And I just wrote about it and put it down on paper. The Referral Engine was a bit of a follow-up, although it was sort of a reverse follow-up because I had been writing about referrals prior to writing the Duct Tape Marketing. I actually had a little $79 3-ring binder with CDs that you could buy called Referral Flood. That was actually my first product. And that was prior to Duct Tape Marketing. And I took a lot of the work that I did for that and wrote the Referral Engine mainly because, I was sort of frustrated with the idea that every business I would talk to, most businesses I would talk to, still today, 75, 80% will say that the bulk of their new business comes by way of referral. And yet none of them do anything about it intentionally. It's sort of the happy accidental referral that they live on. So I wrote that book in answer to that, but it's certainly still it's an element of duct tape marketing, the duct tape marketing system, but I went deeply into that. I wrote The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, frankly, which was not a business book per se. It was certainly not a marketing book. I think I was on your show maybe to talk about that book. I think maybe, I don't know, but at any rate, it was more of a
many
personal growth. Well, yeah, sorry. My memory is, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. But that book was actually more of a personal development, self-help book in a way that was really just a reflection of my journey. I came back to write a straight up marketing book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. Is very much a marketing strategy book that is a reflection of how my thinking and my practice. I continue to work with small business owners today, how my practice has really evolved. But I do introduce some innovations. It's not just an update to my books. There's a couple things in there to that, and a point of view really about marketing that was very informed by what most of us went through the last year.
So you had me on your show. Thank you again very much. I don't know, 6, 8 months ago in the launch of my book, Brand Bewitchery. And the wonderful thing about you as a host is you have a way of asking really pointed questions. Like, really, Park? Can you proof this out for me? And I like that. So I'm going to ask you one. The ultimate marketing engine is, pretty much of a superlative. It means nobody needs anything else. What is it about this book that makes it the ultimate marketing engine?
So first, let's describe what the ultimate marketing engine is. And what I'm going to suggest is a point of view. The ultimate marketing engine is a successful customer. More than anything else, this book is about viewing our customers in a completely different way, as opposed to viewing them as a transaction or something that we might deliver. This book asks you to first and foremost, before we ever start developing content or messaging or any of the tactics, to start thinking of your customers as members. And I don't mean that as a membership or subscription. I mean, those are good business models. I mean it more as a point of view about the what you're there to do to serve them. What if we began to look at all of our customers and asked ourselves, where are they today, but where do they want to be? What's the transformation that we could actually cause in their business or in their life? And we build our entire business, maybe our products, our service offerings, certainly our messaging and our sales and our service, around this idea of taking people, just as I said, from where they are today when they become customers to where they want to ultimately be. And this becomes not just marketing, this becomes, I think, an overarching business strategy, maybe even a mission for an organization.
But aren't companies, agencies, marketing firms already doing that? Thinking about, okay, John, you've hired me. Here's where you are today. We want to get you here tomorrow. And here are the tactics, strategies, and tactics that we're going to do this.
I would say that there's certainly in the world of marketing. I mean, if you're going to keep a customer for any period of time, and I'll be the first to admit, I developed this tool that is in the book that we call the Customer Success Track, based on my 30 years of working with small business owners, some of which I've had now for decades as customers. And without really realizing it, how we have actually matured their marketing and then obviously added more mature, more advanced tactics once we built the foundation. But what I'm suggesting is that in my experience, most marketing firms actually are very transactional. If they look at taking them to the next step, it's more about what else can we sell them, as opposed to what would ultimately be a transformation for this business. And so it's really just a shift in point of view, I think. And what it really requires is that we get very, very focused on who we're working with. This book is broken into 5 steps because people like paint by number books. And so this one of the key steps in this book is narrowing our focus to the top 20% of our clientele. And that's who we're really going to focus on building this customer success track for. We can't make every customer successful. And that's why I think by being scattershot all over, it's like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? We kind of keep ourselves on the treadmill of really just going out and looking for more clients. If we take this approach of looking at our top 20% of our clients, which are probably our most profitable clients today anyway, they probably are the ones that are referring business because we deliver the most value to them. And we start building our entire business around serving them, creating a transformation for them. It really dictates where I think the business is going to go, because my experience is that some percentage of that top 20% wants to do 10 times more business with us. And in another smaller percent of those folks want to do 100 times more business with us. But we're so scattered focusing on keeping the balls in the air, trying to serve everybody, that we don't build our entire business around doing that 20 or 100 times more business with our ideal client, really.
John, can you give us an example of a business you've seen out there that made this small little change in their point of view of focusing only on their 20% of best customers, clienteles, and the impact it had on them?
So I'll use a pretty seemingly pedestrian business. A remodeling contractor that I have worked with for years was your typical contractor. In fact, their name was the name of the company, contracting. So, which was generic enough, meaning they could have done anything for anybody that involved a hammer and a nail. And that's really what they did. They they had a lot of customers. They did whatever, somebody asked them to do, and, built a pretty decent business, but it kept them kind of on a treadmill. When I started working with them, it was pretty clear to me that their most profitable clients were the ones that had remodeled before and wanted them to do, a big part of a big project that was going to be significant, and not only in that house, but in that homeowner's life, because they just were very, very good at process. They were very, very good at the experience, and I mean, they just were trustworthy. They did things right. And so we got them to narrow their focus on that type of project, on that type of customer. Certainly did probably a little more narrowing geographically even with them, because that's where that customer was. And it basically took them from one of 50 contractors in their community to today, like not even comparable, number one contractor, remodeling contractor in their community. And about 75% of their business comes by way of referral and repeat customers, because they cut out everything else they were doing. They not just focused on saying, here's who we served. They focused on, they brought in architects so that they could focus on design. They focused on creating such an amazing experience for those folks that it really wasn't even about the end product anymore. It was about the experience of getting there.
And so just by narrowing their focus, they had that much more success. So can you take us through the customer success track? You said there are 5 stages. Can you rattle those off real quick, and we'll pick a couple of them to talk about and then send them to your book to get the rest of them?
Sure. So the customer success track, while there are 5 stages in my customer success track, the customer success track itself is really a concept that we developed for our business, but that if I really reach my goal in this book, is I want to teach everybody that they can do this. As you and I, could talk about, some of these stages in our customer success track for marketers are not going to be hard to identify, are not going to be hard to recognize. However, again, as I contend, I think every business can do this. So here's the concept behind the customer success track. Most of your customers are probably coming to you, I know they were for me, in a certain stage of need. They were finally reaching out to a marketing consultant because they realized they needed something different. Most of them had similar characteristics. I mean, we could recognize who they were. They had similar challenges. We knew, what they were struggling with, but we also knew that if we could move them to the next stage, the promise of doing that. And so over the years, what it allowed us to do is start developing milestones and tasks specifically related to not just getting the work done, but to getting them moved to the next stage. So our stages, just to give them names, are foundation, level up, organize, stabilize, and scale. And that's kind of the maturity model, of doing marketing with the folks we work with. But the real key to this is by developing the milestones, it allowed us to create a repeatable success system. It allowed us to really focus on what needed to be done now, what needed to be done next. It allowed us to show our prospective clients, here's the roadmap. Here's where we're going. This is ultimately, the promise of getting to this final stage is what the customers are actually buying. They're not buying the tactics that we're doing. They're buying the promise of what getting to that scale stage looks like. I mean, if that's obviously is something that they want to do. So the process then of developing this is just what I mentioned. What are the characteristics? What are the stages? I mean, I put in the book 3 to 7 stages. It doesn't really matter. It's an arbitrary number. Most of your customers are probably coming to you in a certain stage. You probably recognize the challenges and the characteristics they have. And so now it's a matter of saying, okay, what can we do to take them to the next level and the next level and the next level? Now, I think for B2B businesses, certainly service-oriented businesses, I don't think anybody will have any problem, with this concept, because it really does give you, I think it gives you the roadmap for what you need to add in terms of products and services and deliverables, moving forward. So it really is almost a way for not only for you to look at the ultimate kind of journey for somebody who becomes a customer. I think it becomes a strategy for where your business, how to scale your actual business. But I contend that any business, I use that remodeling contractor. We helped them build a customer success track that was really very project based, that really moved their customer along the timeline of milestones that we were able to show them. Here's how you're going to have a successful remodel and how it's going to be on time and on budget. So it really becomes a very flexible tool, I think. But I do give readers in the book the entire, not only customer success track for marketing, but all the milestones and tasks involved as well. So if you're a marketer listening to this, you've got a basic roadmap for your complete customer success track. But then I will ask, any reader or challenge any reader to try to develop this for their own business.
Yeah, is this primarily focused on B2B, or can B2C use it as well?
I think B2C definitely can. That remodeling contractor is all B2C that I mentioned. So, and I have a couple examples and case studies of B2C companies that use this. The beauty of it in my mind is I think B2B folks have been talking about customer journey and have been talking about, journey mapping and customer experience maybe for a much longer than B2C companies have. And so I think a lot of B2B companies will look at this and go, oh, yeah, this is an innovation and something we've been doing. But I think the opportunity is very few B2C companies or even smaller businesses, have this kind of customer journey mindset. And I think that it can give them a very practical application for how to make it real, how to document it, how to, I mean, in a lot of ways, our customer success track in marketing is our training tool. It's a way for me, I train 150 marketing consultants in our organization. And, do you think about creating a repeatable system that you can, you think about all the moving parts in marketing and being able to transfer that knowledge by having, milestones and checklists is a really, really powerful tool if you're trying to create a repeatable system and a repeatable experience.
So if I got these steps right, it's foundation, level up, organize, stabilize, and scale.
That's right. That's right. Just the names that we give to the stages. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And it totally makes sense. You also kind of, at least in my mind's eye, sort of revisited the customer journey, or the funnel, I should say, with your hourglass, marketing hourglass and the 7 steps in that. Can you explain that a little bit more for me?
Yeah, so most people, everybody listening, I suspect, has heard of the marketing funnel because it's been a well-worn concept for years. But the problem I've had with it, and I started writing about this maybe 15 years ago, is that for many, many people, it stops when somebody says yes, when somebody becomes a customer. And I think the real opportunity in most of our businesses is after that. I've said for years that the greatest source of lead generation is a happy customer. And so I developed something I call the marketing hourglass, which clearly borrows from the funnel shape, but then turns it upside down again and expands it after somebody becomes a customer. So our 7 stages are know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And so that becomes a framework for how to at least focus on how we would like to try to guide a customer or a prospect at some point, through our business. And so it allows us, by building that framework, it allows us to do a couple things. It allows us, certainly from a content standpoint, to put the right content, or at least focus on putting the right content out at the right stage of the journey. I mean, people's questions and objectives change dramatically as they, are first trying to define their problem through trying to find somebody to fix their problem. There's a lot of change that goes on. And so by understanding that those are behaviors that I think most people want to go through with the businesses they do business with, we can build our entire business around having a great journey for them. The other thing that it does, or how we use that framework, is that a lot of organizations, there's marketing and there's sales and there's service or customer success, and many times they are siloed parts of an organization. And so this framework, or at least this common language of stages that runs all the way through the customer journey to the point where somebody's just thrilled and an evangelist, is a great tool to get everybody on the same page and to integrate kind of what everybody's doing in each of those stages.
So if I go through those 7, Know, like, trust must be that top of that hourglass. The know is the brand. They're just learning about you. The like said, oh, this seems like there's something here for me. And then you've
Right.
given them enough content and maybe some enough value that they actually trust you to part with some of their money. I suppose the waistline of the hourglass then is the buy. They're in now, moving into the bottom part of this quote unquote funnel. And that is then become a repeat customer and certainly refer you as a happy customer at that point through word of mouth marketing.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's in the simplest form. That's the idea behind it. And I think, as I said, I think these stages, or behaviors, really, as I call them, are really in line with how we want to buy, or how we want to come to know companies. I mean, if we have a problem, we've got to find somebody. We got to know somebody that can solve our problem. We're immediately going to start making snap decisions about, hey, are they saying the right thing? Like, does their website load quickly? When I call them on the phone, that's our like part. Once we start thinking, okay, I think that they are saying the right things, then we're going to start asking, okay, who else trusts them? Is anybody saying anything bad about them? I mean, have they gotten this result for somebody else? Again, that's, I think, part of our buying process. Now, there's a stage in there that a lot of companies skip, I call try. And what a lot of this idea of focusing on these stages is that it just gives you a filter or a framework to look at what you're doing in your business. So for a lot of people, a try might be a phone call. It might be filling out a form on your website. Obviously, it could, we're all familiar with the free SaaS, 30-day trial, but, it might be an evaluation or a quote. I mean, it's all the ways that when they first interact with your business, and they're telling you they're interacting. So in other words, we can do a lot of things on somebody's website without them knowing about it, that we're checking them out. But when they first start telling you, I'm checking you out, what are we doing there? And so the idea behind focusing on this is to just be asking that question. What would a customer expect here? What would make a great experience when they started doing these things? And so these boxes just become a way to really kind of organize the business around what we think would make a great experience. And then obviously we want, so many people, a buyer's remorse, creeps in the second they say yes. So what are we doing for orientation? What are we doing for communication? What are we doing, to make sure that they understand what they bought? And then obviously repeat and refer. Same thing. What are we doing intentionally to create such a great experience that 100% of our customers would want to refer us?
So, John, you cover a lot of ground in this book, and I'm always about that singular narrative coming back. What is, do you believe, the one problem, although you're solving many problems for businesses with the book, what's the one narrative thread problem that your book covers for people? Or maybe another way of asking that is, what is the one biggest mistake you see companies making out there that this book will help them overcome?
Yeah. What I think this book, and again, a lot of people will read this and get a lot of ideas and they'll think, oh, I've got lots to do. What I really want somebody to do is I want them to read this book and go, I now have less to do because I've been wasting my time on things that don't matter, on people that don't, I don't mean people, but on clients or customers that don't matter. And now I have the ultimate roadmap for creating ridiculously consistent growth.
Ridiculously consistent growth. That's awesome. So,
do you see how I worked the subtitle? I worked the subtitle of the book in there. That's what that was.
You've been at this a while, haven't you? This is probably like your 200th interview for this book. It's a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. I haven't gotten all the way through it yet, but the more I read it, the more I'm like, all right, I need to go back and revisit some of your other books. Of all of this, do you have one or two clients, or maybe even your own experience, that you can share a couple stories around that you really see all of this in action?
Yeah, I probably lean on this remodeling contractor too much. They're about a $50 million firm in Kansas City, Missouri. And the reason I say that is because I've just worked with them so long now that I feel like at times I almost feel like I'm an employee of the company because I've just, I've been their advisor for so long.
As a service provider, that's a great position to be in, right?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yes. But I just know their business so intimately. In fact, I'm on the second generation of the business. And so, I saw the current owner actually grow up and, go pick up nails on job sites, before he became the CEO. So yeah, it's a great position to be in. But, as I said, we didn't call it a customer success track, but we really mapped out their customer success track. We spent a lot of time uncovering and realizing the real problem that they solve. And it's not getting the project done. It's actually getting it done in a way that the dog doesn't get loose. And that, when the project's being done, it's the experience of how it gets done is the real problem they're solving. We got them to narrow their focus, and they really do focus on a very narrow part of the market now. They are attracting clients because they're telling the story that those prospects are telling themselves already in their mind. So that, that's been a big part of their attraction. And we've actually been able to scale, or we've really helped them scale with their customers. They have grown, they have second and third generation customers now. As I said, referrals are a big part of what they do. Teaching is a big part of what they do. They actually have found ways to influence their customers' entire ecosystem by bringing them not just a remodeled kitchen, but bringing them other resources that they need to enhance their home and their lives. And so I would say they're a great model of what is possible, from taking this point of view. I start the book off talking about them as what really kind of informed this entire book. I signed the contract part for this book March 15th, 2020. And, that's right about the day that the world was ending for, or at least a lot of us thought it was. And, we were all going into lockdowns and things. And this customer decided this remodeling contractor decided to shut their business down, tell their employees not to come in. We're going to assess the situation, figure out what's going on. And I helped them craft an email to their customer base. And I was just blown away I was copied on all the responses. I was just blown away by how supportive their customers were about them doing the right thing, and that they'd stick with them, and what could they do to, make sure everything went smoothly for them. And it kind of shone the light on, that I think in good times, a lot of businesses just are in the right place, the right business, to really grow because there's demand for what they do. But I think in tough times, the businesses that thrive or survive at least are the ones that are meaningful in some way in the lives of their customers. And that's always been true, frankly. But I think that the 2020 ordeal that we all went through really shone a very bright light on that. And that probably informed this idea of customers as members more than anything else.
And in that, one of the other sentiments that you shared in the book, well, of several, though, that really stuck out to me that I copied over, you said a business is important to its customers when those customers realize that their lives would be diminished were the business to cease to exist. And that is a really wonderful way to look at it. And everything that we could ask ourselves, am I bringing enough value, adding enough value to this business and the personal lives of the people I'm served that they would miss me? Their life would actually be diminished if I wasn't around.
Yeah, and I think that's a tough question. That's a high bar, quite frankly, for most businesses, but it's an important question, isn't it?
Well, it takes you out of that transactional mindset, doesn't it? Because you're not just in it for the money, you're actually in that to help them focus on their growth, and all the rest of the money you need will come. You help them get what they want, they'll go out of their way to help you get what you want.
No question.
Well, John, where can people learn more about your book and all the great work you're doing out there?
Well, so the book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine, will be out September 21st. So depending upon when you're listening to this show, you can pre-order it today. And just because you're a listener of Park's show, if you pre-order it today at theultimatemarketingengine.com, I'm going to give you a chance to get a 6-lesson companion course for free. So pre-order a copy of the book, go to the Ultimate Marketing Engine, you'll see the companion course and how to acquire it for free. And that'll get you started right away in some of these concepts. And we've built lots of worksheets and resources around every one of the steps in the book, and you can grab some of those as part of the companion course right away.
Well, that's fantastic. Thanks for that offer, John. And thanks, man, for taking the time to be with us here on the Business of Story today.
Always fun.
And thank you for listening to this edition. If you liked what you heard and you think John's book can work for you and your colleagues and maybe some other friends and family members out there that are running businesses of all shapes and sizes, by all means, share this episode with them and send them over to the website, theultimatemarketingengine.com. If I can be of service to you, come on over to Business of Story, where I've got lots of tips, tools, techniques, and talent, just like John here, sharing the wisdom to help you craft and tell compelling stories that sell. And of course, join us next week when we will have another amazing story artist right here for you like John. And until then, remember that the most potent story you'll ever tell is the story you tell yourself. So make it a great one. Thanks so much for listening.